Good evening. It is May 26, 2025. My name is Randy Enkin, and I am your host for this, the last Astro Cafe of the 2024-2025 season. We are very fortunate to have two guest speakers today. So we have Linnaia Myhre, one of our science fair awardees from the Vancouver Island Regional Science Fair. And then Nick, oh my goodness, what's your last name, Nick?
Versteeg.
Versteeg is going to talk about the Stanley Plaskett movie. Joe has commissioned me to talk about 2-year anniversary of the Supernova. There'll be announcements. Poor Lauri is actually at a FDAO meeting, so she's given me a couple of things to announce about that. Do we have other things? Anybody going to show us some nice pictures? David Lee, good.
Oh, I have no nice pictures to show you.
Announcements or something fun?
But announcements. I'm going to
You're
talk about.
muted.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about
Actually, I don't think he is.
telescope
Hold on a
clinic.
second.
And if Bill
I
is
think we're
here,
still having technical issues. Just hang on, David.
Oh, we're
okay.
not hearing, eh?
No. Try it again.
Keep talking.
Oh, I just wanted to
Now
say a
we're
few
back.
things about the telescope clinic coming
Okay,
coming
very
up on the
good.
31st. And I don't know if Bill needs any more volunteers for the Beavery, but he may. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, so you're gonna talk about that, that's excellent.
Yep.
I have
And,
a picture I can show if you like.
excellent, Dave. Always love it when you show us things.
Sounds good.
Anything else?
Oh, can mention end of the month the Venus elongation.
Okay, well, so this is the order, it'll be Linnaia, then Nick, then Dave, then David, and then me. Okay? Any space news, Chris?
Not much. Only I'll say a couple of things.
Okay, no talking about budget, it's too depressing.
Yeah, well, why don't I just say it now? There's, I mean, it's still out there, but not much has happened
Mhm,
since my last talk, so
great, enough said.
one way or the other, so we're still kind of waiting.
Okay, so now it is we're going to do something that is kind of tricky. I'm going to hold the the camera for Linnaia, who has her poster board here, and you're going to give us your whole spiel like you would give the judges, and then we'll ask you questions, okay?
Did you want to do it with your laptop? Because you could.
No, I'm gonna do it with this,
Okay.
and
That's upside down. So you. Oh yeah. You have to make sure you hold it upside down. Yeah.
okay, and can you pin us, Chris?
Maybe.
Pin to second, I guess.
Would it be helpful to move your computer?
We'll figure this one out. Good. Okay, Linnaia, you're on. And you can see yourself there, so you know that it's all working.
Say hi and introduce yourself and thank you, Chris.
Hi, thank you.
And ask if they can hear you.
Can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
So I'm Linnaia. Thanks for inviting me here. My project is about air rockets. I thought that my question was, if I change the size and shape of air rocket fins, which one will make my rockets go the farthest? I thought that the medium triangular fins would go the farthest because they weren't too big or too small and they were the most aerodynamic. I found that my control went the farthest, which was a rocket with no fins. And I also noticed that it went quite far, but it was also quite far off the center line. So fins help keep it on the center line.
So I think you're gonna have to now step back a bit.
Yeah.
Tell us about your equipment and what you measured.
So, I measured the
No, equipment.
like
Let's
so
talk about the equipment.
I used I might need my cards here. I
Good
don't-
idea.
because I have a lot of things that I use. I used one piece of paper for each rocket, cardstock for the fins. I don't have the fins. Wine bottle caps, scissors, scotch tape, tuck tape, an air rocket launcher, which is this.
Okay, you're gonna give us a,
Which is, so it's all made out of PVC pipes.
can you tell us all about it?
So this is my bike pump, so I connect it to here. And then I pump the air and it goes into this tube. And then when I press this button, it opens this valve and the air pressure shoots through this rocket and the rocket shoots.
Wow, okay. So now we know how you make the rocket go. Now what did you measure?
So I measured how far the rocket went by putting my rocket launcher at a 45-degree angle. And then someone was holding like a little PVC piece, and when the rocket landed, it kind of bounced and they had to guess where it landed originally. So that was a little bit hard.
Mhm.
And we did our best, but it wasn't completely accurate. And so I measured that, and then I had a little notebook and I wrote it down because I had this graph, and then I had to adjust a bunch of things because a bunch of the measurements were wrong. And so I put it into the computer, and my dad helped me with this. I did a bunch of programming where we like changed it.
Change
So
what?
like
There were,
We-
program, we did some calculation.
yeah, we did some calculations to figure out which tests were wrong, and then we added it up to change because we had two measuring tapes, but some were measuring in centimeters and some were measuring in inches.
So it's not that it was wrong, it was
So-
that we needed to.
We needed to, like, figure it out. And so after we figured that out, we made a different graph to figure out how far off of the center
Okay,
line it
let me
was,
come up
which is-
closer and then you can show off. Why don't you go right around your equipment and then we can go right into the
So-
graph.
This is my original graph where we had to do all of the calculating, and then this is
Wait, what is it? What's,
this is how far it went. So this is like all of the rockets, and then this is all of the
Ask if
distances.
they can see if they can read that at home.
Yeah, can you read it?
it will help if I don't move it so
Yeah,
fast.
it's tricky. Why don't you read a couple of the
So-
labels?
Small triangle, medium triangular, large triangle, and then semicircles, and then squares, and then my control.
Oh, wow, so the control really was way better.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I think because it had no fins, so it wasn't as heavy.
Ah,
Um,
wait.
And it also, the fins increased the drag,
Hmm.
which made it fly a little wobbly. And so,
There was one other thing, do you remember what it was? Fits?
oh yeah, some of my rockets, I made them by hand. So I had to use a measurer and wrap it around that, but some of them were fit tighter on the launcher than others. And so some of them let air escape when it shot and other ones didn't. And so it got really confusing of why some of the flights weren't working as well. And so we figured out some of them weren't as tight and it wasn't working as well.
Okay, I thought if they were very tight, there would be more friction, but in fact, You're saying that tighter is better.
Yeah, because then it doesn't let the air escape when it's shooting, because with the looser ones, it would be like it would let air go up, but then it would come down and go out of the bottom before it starts to shoot. And so that didn't work very
The thing that I like seeing is that your differences between your different experiments are bigger than the variation within
well.
each one.
Yeah,
So that gives me
Yeah,
confidence that you're actually measuring something. Okay, so now we're gonna move down. What are we looking at here?
and so here, this one is not actually my control, which you might think it is.
Back up and say what it is before you
So
explain.
this is my how far off the center line it was. And so I had this on like a sidewalk by my house. And so one side was negative and one side was positive. And something happened. So the fins on this rocket, which was the small square, were tilted for some of the flights. So they were very off until we figured out that they were like one of them was like folded on the end, and so we had to straighten that out and it started flying better.
But some of them are very close and some of them
Yeah.
are not. Can you show us which ones
So
are good and which ones are bad?
I don't have all of them here, but the small triangle, that one, this is the small triangle. So this one was, it all went one way. So it all went to the positive side and none of them went to the negative.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm seeing, for a bunch of them that they've been doing that. See how like that one's all on that side and
Can you
that
lift
one
the
only has
camera up
one
a bit,
there.
Randy?
Sorry, thank you.
This one all is on one side and so is that one, and that one only has one. So they're all pretty close. This one was my hypothesis. It's the medium triangular. So that was this one. It was pretty close. And then that one was also that. For the
Just-
distance.
Cool. I see you have something called interesting facts. I like interesting
Yes.
facts.
So if the rocket's caps aren't sealed properly, the rockets don't fly as well because it lets air escape. The weight of the rocket really affects the rocket's flight. And if a rocket is made with a half sheet of paper at 15 psi, which is what I was shooting them at, they burst from the pressure. I learned that out the hard way.
This is called science. This is
Yeah,
Adding tabs on the fins makes it way easier to tape. So on my rockets, I have these tabs and you just tape it half on
oh,
the
good
tabs and half on
engineering.
here. So
Yeah,
it's way easier to tape them.
Mhm.
that's good engineering.
Space rockets must use fuel because there's no air in space. The first rocket used steam for propulsion at around 400 BC. And air rockets became popular toys in the 20th century.
Oh, and then I also like this. You have future experiments and research.
Yeah. So a few experiments I might do in the future are if I change the size and change the shape of the bottle cap, which would go the farthest, and also if I changed the type of paper I make the rocket out of, which one would go the farthest. And then my research was I just have a few websites I used to find research for my hypothesis and to help me figure out what experiment I could do, because I was also thinking of making like nose cones, but I realized that after doing a bit of research, I realized that didn't really affect the rocket's flight as much as rocket fins did. So I decided I would do rocket fins instead.
Why did you study rockets in the first case?
Well, if I was thinking, my two favorite things really are horses and rockets. So I was like balancing between those, but then I remembered my mom is a teacher and she likes shooting rockets with her class. And so if I thought if I could do something to figure out which one would go the farthest, it would make her class have a little bit more fun. Because I've seen people who make rockets and they like decorate it all with like fins and things and it looks all cool, but then they shoot it and it doesn't go very far. So if you like decorate it with like colors instead of making it with fins, it would actually go somewhere instead of just like shooting off of the top and then like failing.
That's excellent. Do we have questions out there in the
And maybe-
internet or here?
And maybe use the question gesture for the people online if there's more than one. So please raise your hand if there's a gesture, question.
What's the name of your horse?
Dino.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be Rocket.
I do have a horse named Rocco, so it's close.
Are you aware, have you been up to the observatory?
Yeah, I have. My sister used to volunteer there.
So you know then that the big telescope was drawn up the hill by a team of 10 horses, way back when.
Yeah, I saw a picture of it.
Yeah, so there you go.
What did your sister do as a volunteer?
She,
Star parties.
yeah, she did Star Party.
But did what there? This is great.
I don't know. What did she do?
So she started out in the main building, but then she moved over to the telescope building later in the summer.
That's
So,
fantastic.
yeah, and I got to go up there a couple of times and hear a couple of times.
We're very keen on,
It's such a fantastic spot and such a great community around it. Yeah.
well, thank you very much and congratulations. We're very pleased to have you here and the other science fair awardee will give us a talk in the autumn. The timing just didn't work. The Monday nights she was busy. So I hope that she'll be able to next year. But thank you so much for coming. And I also want to say that Linnaia showed off her project at the International Astronomy Day.
I did it 4 times. 4 times.
Maybe we should just ask her co-experimenter to take a bow too.
There we go. You're on.
Yeah, you're the
We're juggling,
co-experimenter.
yeah, so I don't need about, she really did the work, I mean, I do have a science degree, so I can help guide some things along, but learned an incredible amount, it was a really fantastic project.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Come over and stand over there.
I hope you aren't seasick from my holding the camera so badly.
And maybe aim it down again. I think you're high.
Where are we? Oh, yeah. That's
Good. I think we're good there.
like that. A little bit. That way. Okay. So now number 2 is Nick is going to be talking, and do you want to introduce before we turn on the video?
Yeah, like let me, okay, all right, here we go. I don't run your way, right?
Or do you want to sit over?
You can sit in a right chair if you want.
Sit here, sit here.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
That's
Everybody can see
Good,
it.
all right. Okay, my name is Nick Versteeg. I always start with, I'm 75 years old. I've been in a documentary filmmaker for the last kind of 45 years. Worked for many TV stations. I had a 12-year stint with the US and the Canadian Food Network. We traveled with chefs all over the world. It was kind of fun until they started doing reality shows. And I told them I don't do reality shows because chefs should be treated with respect. And then it's and you know, so we did a freebie about 2.5 years ago. We did some free videos for the Mill Bay Historical Society. And I don't know if you're aware, there is a lot of old timers that live in the Cowichan Valley. I lived in the Cowichan Valley as well. Now I'm living in Victoria here. And we met the great granddaughter or the granddaughter of Arthur McCurdy. Arthur McCurdy worked for Alexander Bell, what was fantastic. We did an interview, and in the interview says, "Oh, my grandfather, by the way, worked for Alexander Bell." I said, "The Alexander Bell?" He said, "Yeah." So Arthur McCurdy bought a house on the top of the Malahat. What was really neat, the house is still there, and of course Jane Shapley, the granddaughter, lives still in the house. And we did the interview, and she said, "By the way, my grandfather was very much involved in the promoting of the observatory. I had never been in the observatory or even close to it. And so it was right after COVID that we did some filming at the observatory. And I met Dennis Crabtree, who handed me the book from Peter Broughton, Northern Star. Start reading it. For me, of course, not being
You have a prop here.
we have a prop here. Again, this is the book, Northern Star. I start reading it. Of course, there is an enormous amount of technical material in it. And I phoned Peter Broughton. I said, "Peter, can we talk?" So we talked by Zoom a lot of times. I said, "I'd like to do a documentary on your book. And you have to explain me all the technical side." It was funny. Peter says, "There's nothing technical about it, Nick." I said, "Well, I was a terrible science student at school. And I was interested in storytelling. That has always been my big part." To make a long story short, of course, Peter was really excited. He said it would be fun to do a documentary of it. And I said, what I've taken out is the life of Plaskett, growing up on a farm in 1870, and not interested in astronomy at all. He was a person that worked with machinery and all kinds of stuff. Of course, working on a farm, you had to do that. Later, at a later age, and you will see that in the documentary, he went to university finally, and he was a great photographer. And that really piqued my interest because I love photography. And because he was such a good photographer, he started documenting. They asked him to document the building of the Ottawa Observatory. And from there, he started learning about astronomy and we all know what he became. I love that story. Now, of course, the trick is, how do we get funding for it? So I said to Dennis, I said, I met with the board of the Friends of the University of the Observatory. And I said, who would be a great person to be involved in it is Bob McDonald. And I said, so how can we contact him? He said, Nick, Bob is on our board. Here is his email. I sent him an email and Bob sent me right away back. I said, Bob, let's meet. And in the meantime, we have become great friends. Bob has been a great help. And we thought, well, this is easy. We can sell this easily to CBC, the idea, because we have to sell the idea. We need some money to do this, right? And CBC said, oh, yeah, great story. Yeah, I said, it's a Canadian story. You guys are asking for the Canadian stories. And CBC said, now come back when you have it done and maybe we show it. I said, that will not pay for the production. We need somebody to pay for the production. We cannot do this for free, right? Etc. So we approached a lot of stations, TVO, Knowledge Network. They all came back with the same story great story. That's our life, by the way, in the broadcast business. And I sent an email to Rob Germain of Czech. We had done some work for them, but most of the time they did not pay for the productions. And we said, oh, well, somebody else paid for it anyhow, so here you can show it. But Rob was really intrigued and he gave us a broadcast license. It was a small broadcast license. And with that broadcast license, we went to the Canada Media Fund, who gave us some funding. Then we needed some extra, it has a budget in there because we like to pay everybody that works on the production. And we like to go and show the story where it plays out. So we got Canadian Tire involved as a sponsor, so that was great. And then later on, the University of Toronto with the Chime and Court program. I don't know if you're familiar with Chime and Court. It's in Penticton. It's a radio astronomy project. They became involved too.
Oh, Chime, yes.
Chime. It's my Dutch accent, Randy.
No, I didn't know you were talking about a radio telescope.
And so they said, listen, can you put a section in there? So we finally got it all together. That took an entire year. And finally, I think in August last year, I also contacted, of course, one of your members who sits there, Chris Gaynor, because I needed a writer, because I don't know anything about your industry or whatever you want to call it, your science, right? Via Chris, of course, I learned a lot, and Chris and I worked together on kind of putting a proposal together, putting a script together, and started promoting it. Finally, in August, we started filming. We made first a trip after we had kind of a rough script together, what we wanted to do. We said it has to be in 2 parts because there is so much to tell. So we went first to Mount Wilson and Lick, what Plaskett, we followed more or less kind of what the route that Plaskett did. At Lick Observatory, if you have never been there, stop by there because it's a spectacular wooden dome. Like it's fantastic, right? You will see it in the documentary. Mount Wilson was interesting. The interesting part for me was going to these observatories that is high in the mountains. This one is 200 meters. It takes an hour to get to Lick and an hour to get Mount Wilson.
That's great.
Very high in the mountains. Okay, then we went to Toronto. We filmed in I stayed with Peter and Marilyn. That was wonderful. They're a wonderful couple. And Peter took me to the university. You will see, and we followed the story how you will see how he was interested in stories and all kinds of other things, photography, of course. We filmed in different locations. Went, of course, to the observatory in Ottawa. It's very sad. The observatory in Ottawa is completely dilapidated. It's completely empty. There's nothing in there anymore. And I think the building is fantastic, but it's a complete empty site. Shot at the Science Museum. And then the highlight, and you will see that in part 2, was a visit to the Canadian Space Agency, where we interviewed David St. Jacques, who was 320 days, I think, in the ISS. And via Zoom, we did Jeremy Hansen, who's going to go to the moon. So we filmed that. Then we couldn't take, we have Plaskett played by an actor, Roger Carr from Victoria. We had worked with Roger before. And we had some extras. One plays McCurdy. We have Brashear in it. And we have Andy Cannon, of course, who played also the people that played a role in it. You will see in the documentary that we play kind of, Plaskett is looking back at his life. And we have him then also kind of 20 or 30 years younger, what was, of course, hilarious to do because we have a small budget. And with a small budget, you have to try to be really innovative. So we filmed everything in front of a green screen at Chuck. Bob was fantastic. He would sometimes come in and he would say to Chris, I liked what you have written there, but can I do my own version here? Right? What was fantastic. And you don't say no to Bob McDonald. Right?
That's right. No, I always said yes to him because he's the guy up on the screen.
That's right. Sometimes he took a prop with him. Like that was also amazing. But the absolutely amazing part, and I'm not going to talk at all about it, is the ending of part 2, where he said, it's very nice what Chris has written. But Nick, roll the camera. And for 4 minutes, he gives us an ending where I think everybody's too completely perplexed. You will see it. So part 1, first of all, it's on, let me not forget it, on Czech TV. It's nice because they have a broadcast license, but you have to see this in the theater. And I talked with Randy. We're going to show it in UVic, probably. Is it
Well, maybe we'll do it one of our Wednesday nights
at a theater
events, but if anybody has a connection with Cinecenta,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be fun?
It's way nicer to see this on a big screen. So TV is okay. It comes on TV on Czech on the 13th of June.
Oops.
For God's sake, let it not be a hockey game, otherwise nobody's going to watch it. At 8 o'clock, from 8 to 9, they will repeat it many, many times. You will see it. And then that's part 1, and part 2 will be a week later. So that's on June 20th. In short, part 1 will take you from him growing up on a farm to building the observatory here on the mountain and his first major discovery, the binary stars. Part 2 is kind of a recap of what you have seen in part 1, and then his major discovery of the rotation of the Milky Way. You will not believe what I have learned in the last 2.5 years about the universe, right? It's fantastic. I even got myself now also, and I got it from my wife, a sea star. So, I'm totally in it, right? Part 2 starts with his major discovery, the rotation of the Milky Way, and toward the end of his life. And then we do, and I really like that portion because we wanted to also show what Plaskett's influence was to Canadian science. And so we talk about the radio astronomy in Penticton. You will see that, Chime and Court. And then the space agency, of course, with what we have, all the elements that we have in space and how and why we involved. And the message that we're giving in the entire documentary is, I hope there's not Americans here, but Americans always say, oh, we're the best in this, we're the best in this, and we're the best in that. What I found out, what we as a country, as Canadians do for science is absolutely amazing. And that is the message of the documentary, is that Plaskett started it, in a time that, like early 1900s. And what we do today in science in Canada is incredible. And I want to end it with, and then that sets up the kind of the clip. I was at, some of you might remember, I was at your star party in August last year. We did some filming there. It's in part 2. And that's the clip that I brought with me tonight to kind of warm you up for what you're going to see. So maybe let's show that first and then ask me questions after.
Okay. So I'm going to go share and share sound. And let's get back to the beginning.
So this is just a clip out of the video, right?
With telescope's findings, actually we're finding things that challenges the physical formulas, physical rules right now.
Today's telescopes, with advanced optics, cameras, and computers, are within the reach of many ordinary people who want to explore the universe in their backyards.
We have quite a large community of astronomers across Canada. We have professionals and amateurs. The Royal Astronomical Society of Canada really focuses on the amateur astronomers, so we have about 4,500 to 5,000 members at any given time. And we do all sorts of things, outreach and a little bit of research even. Kind of the cool part about astronomy is that amateurs can make really significant contributions to the field.
And many amateur astronomers belonging to the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada like to gather at star parties, like this one, in a field just a few kilometers away from the Dominion Astrophysical Observatory.
Today is the first day of the 2024 Island Star Party, and we have about 100 people here. Many brought their own telescopes, and we're just amateurs of the sky. We're a bunch of astronomers that want to enjoy the sky together.
We are here to have a look at the night sky. So we have picked a spot where we can see quite a good amount of sky around us, and hopefully it will be quite dark tonight. So I'm hoping to observe a number of double stars. So my society has a number of what they call observing programs where they give you a list of things to find. And I'm hoping to find a number of double stars tonight.
One of the early centers that makes up the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada is the Victoria Centre. And yes, Plaskett was one of the first members.
Look at that.
Yeah, get all my gear to work properly because I have a bit of a complicated setup that uses Linux and a Raspberry Pi, and everything has to communicate properly with the computer. So if I can get everything working tonight, that's already going to be a success. And then after that, if I do that, I'm going to take a few photos of a few nebulas and a few galaxies, and I don't know which one yet. We're going to choose them as we go.
Every nation and every culture and throughout time, people have been amateur astronomers. People are just fascinated what's in the sky.
So this is the Heart Nebula. This is only 30 seconds of camera exposure. So we can close that. I can kind of faintly see a bit of an outline of a nebula coming in here, especially in this region right over here.
One of the great joys of being in this field is just how fascinated people are with the sky. And so we do things like International Astronomy Day and this star party. An important thing is the Plaskett telescope has been open every Saturday night since it opened. It's part of their mandate. So they have been inviting people to see what that telescope can see for over 100 years.
Plaskett did not set out to become.
That's it, right? That's it.
Wow.
Sorry that it stumbles through there, but I don't know how they saw it on the other side, but you can imagine it goes very smooth, right? So
That's great.
Yeah, it's amazing what Nick has done here, and it's been a lot of fun working with him on it. And I think the most interesting thing is that he's picked up so much astronomy now. I don't think he even needs me to tell him what to do anymore. And
far from it.
He's been taking some amazing pictures of that telescope you got from your wife, and so we've got a keen new member here.
Absolutely.
And I think that's not your last star party. I think you're coming.
No. I'd be there in August. Absolutely.
I got you hooked.
Absolutely.
So
Right. Any questions?
Part 1 is on June 13.
June 13th.
When's part 2?
Part 2 is the week after.
20th.
Goes on Friday night. And they will repeat it, and you probably, I will ask them next week. It will probably also be online on their app.
streaming,
Yeah. Because what we like to do, so far we have paid everybody that worked on it, including Chris. So like everybody's paid, right? So that was the main goal. We hope to, myself, I hope to make some money on selling it. Maybe I have always said I don't do this for the money. At 75, I don't have to do it for the money anymore. It's just the enjoyment that we have meeting all of you and seeing these amazing pictures that you guys take. It's astounding. There's one funny story. I took a picture of, I think I showed it to Chris, from the Monkey Nebula a couple of weeks, and I showed it to my wife, and I said, here, this is what the telescope that you gave me does. She said, what is that? I said, that's a nebula. Okay. But it's absolutely was an incredible amount of fun to work on it.
Kevin, your hands up.
Yes. Thanks, Nick, for your presentation. And Nick will be actually our presenter at UVic on October 8th in the Bob Wright Center.
Oh, good.
So we'll be screening both halves of his film there. So we'll be starting at 7 rather than 7:30 on that night. So
how many people can we have?
How many people there, Kevin?
I'm not sure, actually.
Assuming we get our same room next year, I think that one has well over 100 person capacity. So
yeah, it's a pretty big room.
Yeah. 140 rings a bell.
Beautiful. That's a good screen and sound?
It will be a pair of screens because it's a projector. It's not a single. It's a lecture theater.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'll be.
Yeah, I know. Like that's will be okay, right?
Yeah.
Chris, I think there's a mode where you can just project it
Centrally, right? Yeah. We can try that too. I don't know how to do that, but I'm sure we can figure it out.
And we show like it's Czech, of course, like, and I really, well, you know, they're the broadcast license. They have, of course, commercials in it. We had to put 4 breaks in it. What's really hard to break something up because you want to see this, right? Yeah.
So it's so kind of each part's like the 45-minute running time.
First part is 48 minutes, I think, and the second part is 45 minutes.
Yeah. So typical.
Yeah. 4
less commercials. Yeah.
Right. So
I want to interrupt this conversation to point out that Kevin has taken on the wonderful job of being our university speaker coordinator. So thank you very much, Kevin. This is something we're really pleased about. And it sounds like you've already got the autumn filled up.
I've got one open, November.
You're doing great. Okay. So back to Nick. There is a screening coming up at the Center of the Universe, but it's a restricted.
yeah, we are not in charge of the screening. So on the 5th, they have more or less the people that are members or friends of the universe.
Yeah.
But if you like I think the Wednesday afternoon, that is the 4th, if I'm not mistaken, right? The 4th of June, we show it at 4 o'clock. There's you probably can get tickets for that one. So that's on the 4th. That's in the
Wednesday
afternoon.
is the 4th.
Right? And then in the evening, that is more or less our evening where we have all the people that worked on the production, right? So we have that. Plus, if there is, I would say contact the DAO.
Well,
right?
For the Wednesday evening, it is Dan Posey who's coordinating the people who are not in the Friends of the Dominion Astrophysical Observatory. He so president at victoria.rasc.ca. And I don't know anything about the afternoon showing. I don't know. Will that be the Friends that are selling?
Yeah, we actually do the afternoon showing, especially for Peter Broughton and his family. Peter will be we're hosting Peter at our place.
Oh, he's here.
He's coming. He's coming.
Oh, we don't have an Astro Cafe to have him come here.
And so Peter is coming with his family, and he says, Nick, they have to go home to Vancouver. So we have a showing at 4 from 4 till about 6 on the Wednesday afternoon. And I think there is where you have your best chance to get some extra tickets for.
Okay.
Right? Contact them. Right?
And who would, when contact for that, does anybody know?
I can forward Amy to you.
Oh yeah, Amy probably would be a good person to contact.
Yeah, because she's in charge. I talked to her this
Okay,
afternoon.
so let's just say
right?
contact Amy and
say how many spots are available for the afternoon showing, right?
Yeah.
And how many spots are for the evening. I think the 5th is pretty well booked because that's, they have all the mayor and whatever. And Czech is going to do a live broadcast from the mountain on the 5th from 5 till 7 o'clock. Tess van Straten will be there. So it's fun.
So you told me something today, Nick, that you were still working on it. What's the last thing you had to do before you actually hit the send button?
Oh, you have to remind me on it. We were watching, I've seen this thing so many times now, and even this afternoon, I still see mistakes. Right? Like they say, oh shit, I should have done this different. And we always have that. But yesterday, some voices were out of sync, like because we made a tiny little change, and even if it's 1 frame or 2 frames out of sync. So we did 8 times outputs, because every time, it's all digital, of course. Every time we have to output it. So that's what we're working on. But at least we delivered the productions part 1 and part 2 to check this morning, because we had to deliver today. So, but
Wonderful.
yeah.
Do we have any more questions for Nick?
And the trailer is already up on YouTube, and you've done kind of a little featurette
That's
about
maybe
the
nice.
making of the thing.
So on our YouTube channel, if you go to it's DV Documentary Productions. Now there's a lot of DV Documentary Productions on YouTube, but if you have the link of the trailer,
those are the 3 things. That there are 3 little.
There's 4 now.
There's
right?
4
There's
now. Okay.
So there's behind the scenes, and that really shows you what goes into making this. So part 1 is getting the funding, and the proposal. Chris is featuring in that. Part 2 is we got Bob involved. We made a trailer. Part 3 is finally we go on the road. Part 4 is I think at the Canadian Space Center. But it's actually, if you ever have been there, I stood on a mock-up of the moon base, and you look out of the window, and there's the moon, the surface of the moon. It is so absolutely cool, right?
Wow.
And David St. Jacques was absolutely. We tried to get Hatfield, but Hatfield charged $8,000 now, and we did not have that in our budget. And then the Canadian Space Agency says, "Listen, Nick, we can give you David St. Jacques, or David St. Jacques." And I said, "Are you guys charging for it? Because we have a minimum budget." He said, "No, come over." And and he was fantastic. You will see it. And also Jeremy Hansen, right? That's great. So there is behind the scenes, and we're gonna have a total of 8 of them this week. Actually, tomorrow there's coming number 5 comes on the YouTube channel, and
Okay, I think we'll save those for presenting in the autumn, because we've watched the first 3, but they'll still be good for us.
Absolutely.
Maybe as we get ready for your October talk, we'll prime the pump with those.
One more thing.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank all of you who have actually contributed with pictures, because that has been really a help. You saw a little bit of it, like with the beautiful pictures. I think RASC has been in Toronto too. RASC, Randy Rosen, is it Randy?
Randy Atwood.
Randy Atwood or
Randall Roosevelt, like
yeah.
he's been great.
Randall.
Old pictures of the RASC has absolutely fantastic. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming. This is a real treat. When you wrote me, I was thinking, oh, I wonder if you can come in person. It's just fantastic. We really appreciate that. This is a real great treat having both Linnaia and you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
And make sure you have a cupcake. We have cupcakes now. You don't have cupcakes at home, I bet. Anyway, since it's such a good segue talking about our astrophotographs, Dave Payne, what do you have to show off today for us?
Well, I'll start off by saying it hasn't been a great spring.
No, it hasn't.
No. Cold too.
Means you have lots of time to process, right?
Yeah, it's lots of time to process, but I'll give you a glimpse of what else I've been working on. But am I sharing this?
Yep.
You are?
You are.
Okay. This is M100 galaxy. And it's about twice the size of Milky Way, but it's quite a distance away. I'll show you a couple of pictures here. It's in Coma Berenices, just near Virgo. Here's where it happens to be. Here's Virgo down here. And it's actually part of the Virgo cluster of galaxies. It's probably my favorite, but as you can see, there's a lot of Messier objects in this neighborhood. Some of them are galaxies, some of them are globular clusters and such. So it's a great part of the sky right there. And here's a close-up of it. Now it's said that this is an intermediate face-on galaxy, which intermediate is code for it's not a barred galaxy in the middle, and it's not a not barred galaxy either. So I don't know. It's kind of they couldn't decide, so they called it intermediate. But it is fairly unique because if you can see in the middle, it's very bright in the middle here, and it is actually a starburst galaxy, and its unique sort of characteristic is there's a lot of intense star formation taking place in here, but it's mainly in the center.
Dave,
Yes.
I've always wondered this with these amazing astrophotographs. Isn't there always a lot of giving more light the further you get from the center so you don't blow out the middle? I don't know how to word that, but
No, if you shoot and process it carefully, you don't have to blow out the center.
but aren't all galaxies much brighter in the middle than as you get out to the spiral arms?
Yes, let me show you another image that I've got here.
But you're saying this is even more extreme.
No, since you ask.
I'd
So
ask.
what's indicative of star formation? Yes, they are bright in the middle. But what's indicative of star formation here? If I can pull this up. Let me just switch. Here's my write-up on my image. But here's an image of the hydrogen alpha signal that we get with a camera taking this galaxy. So this galaxy picture is put together from a number of filters, taking a number of different signals. And this is the hydrogen alpha signal. Hydrogen alpha signal is usually dark in the middle of a galaxy, because all star formation is essentially done near the center. But for this galaxy, the hydrogen alpha is very bright in the middle. And so that's how we know there's a lot of star formation. With the light of the stars themselves, it turns a yellow color, but that is common, but that's how we know. Now, what you're looking at here is a website I've been developing, and I'll just take a second to give a plug for it. It's picking up steam in terms of visitors, and I haven't officially launched it, but what I've done is taking new pictures and past pictures and put a description of what's going on in the picture. Now, some of these descriptions are fairly technical, and for this M100 galaxy that you saw, for example, I do talk about that hydrogen alpha signal, but I also give a write-up on the circulation of hydrogen within the galaxy. So how the hydrogen is moving towards the middle along the spiral arms, and then it leaves at certain places, it leaves the spiral arms and moves out, turns into a hydrogen atom, and then moves out to the next arm out, and then moves back in along the spiral arm again. So why this happens, what it enables, and the whole thing is in this write-up. So what I'm doing is actually composing these write-ups. And so, for example, you can pick a category. Well, here's all categories. So each of the images, it has a link to the full resolution, full frame image on Zenfolio, but also you can click on a particular topic. Here's one about supersonic flow and talks about supernova remnants and how the supersonic flow shapes the look and feel of the galaxy, of that nebula. So some of the write-ups are very technical, some of them are mildly technical, but if you're interested in the technical story of what's really going on in these images, please visit this website. It's AP for astrophotography, AP Real Space, all one word, and browse and please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. It hasn't, all the T's aren't crossed and the I's dotted yet for an official sort of release, but it's fully accessible to anyone who knows it's there. So you can either go.
Oh, Dave.
So I'm still building up the stable of topics, but I've got quite a few. We go to all categories. I don't know how many I got here, but there's quite a few of them, and there's more than this. So there's about 25 write-ups or something like that already. And please leave a comment and let me know what you think, whether it was entertaining or whether you technically disagree. I'd love to do that. That's the fun when there's different interpretations and disagreements. So
And Joe points out that the website is way more impressive than this Zoom projection of it. So you have to now go see these beautiful pictures directly from the website. You'll get a much better view of it.
well, I owe Joe a heap of thanks because he got me started on how to figure out how to make a website in the first place because I had never done that before. So it was a bit of a learning experience putting that together. And I'll leave you with another galaxy. And this one is called the Hidden Galaxy. It's about half the size of Andromeda and so it's not as big as the previous one, but it's a lot closer. And in fact, they figure this galaxy would be visible to the naked eye, except for the fact that there's a whole bunch of Milky Way dust between us and the galaxy. So it took a lot of exposure time and careful processing to bring it out. But you don't see the nice blue of new stars. You don't see, there's a little bit of hydrogen alpha in there, but everything's like a shade of yellowy brown, reddish brown. And that's thanks to all this dust that's in the way. So it's quite interesting. And it happens to be an intermediate galaxy as well, except I do think I see a bar right in the middle of this one. And that's all I wrote, so.
That's
Oh,
very exciting. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
David Lee, you're on.
Thank you, Randy. So there's a couple of things. I'll mention some of the events first, and then I'll talk about something that's happening at the end of the month. So, firstly, Telescope Clinic is going on again for this year. So we welcome everybody that has telescopes that need some TLC to kind of bring them up. There'll be a number of people that are willing to have a look at them. Also, if you're thinking about buying a telescope and you don't know much about telescopes, please come up as well, because we'll have some basic descriptions of telescopes. And this is a request from anybody here in the audience. If you want to come up as a volunteer on that night, that'd be much appreciated, and extol the virtues of your favorite telescope. We have a number of them, a number of people doing that already, but I think we could always use more people. Um, Chris, you mentioned that you could help. Would you like to come up on Saturday night as well? I don't know if Chris is there.
Which
Chris,
one?
we have
Chris,
two.
Chris Purse.
Yeah, I could do that.
Oh, excellent, excellent. And there'll be other people coming up. I think Brenda's coming up, Kirsten's coming up. I'll be doing some basic kind of optics kind of depiction. I understand Bill and Brock will be there with their tools to help out doing some minor repairs. So that's great.
I'll try to make it up there too, Dave.
Oh, that would be great. That'd be wonderful. Yeah, we want to have a display of different things, and in fact, I asked Lauri whether I should include smart telescopes, so I actually included the slide on smart telescopes. So the center does have a number of smart telescopes, so they'll be out that night as well. And if you have one personally that you would prefer to bring, do that too. Okay, so that's the telescope clinic, but prior to the telescope clinic, in the afternoon, there's an event going on at Camp Bernard, and I'll let Bill talk about that.
Yeah, just had to turn my mic on. Yeah, well, it starts technically at 10 in the morning and goes till a little after 2. So if you're wanting to come out and hang out, and I will have all the gear we need to do solar stuff.
Bill, you haven't said
Yes.
yet what it is.
It's the Beavery. So it's the youngest of the scouting groups. And so like 5 to 8-year-olds. You're never overwhelmed because they have to have at least one adult for every 2 kids that are there. So there's lots of adults around the kids also. So I've never had a problem. They're always really well behaved and get in line well, and it's a lot of fun. So if you're gonna come, show up by about 9:30ish in the morning. If you make a piece of paper with the word vendor written on it, so then they will let you park in the closer to the parking area. And,
Yeah, actually, a word of advice for people that are going to come. It's actually better to come earlier if you want a spot, because it's harder to get a parking spot later. So yeah, a lot of fun, and
pack a
Bill's
lunch.
right. Pack a lunch. Yeah, will do. Yeah, a number of us are coming up for sure, Bill. So you probably should have enough. But if anybody else wants to come up, that'd be a wonderful thing as well.
The more, the merrier.
Exactly. Okay,
How
so
many people are committed now?
Me, Kirsten, Lauri, Bill, of course. That's 4 from our group so far.
I'm just looking for my list.
Oh, he's going to put us on the spot now.
And Jim Cox.
And Jim, yes, and Jim.
And Jim.
What is the date for both of these events? You didn't really
May
mention
31st. May 31st. So the
31st. So
the 31st.
Saturday.
It's a Saturday.
This upcoming Saturday.
So it's going to be a long day for those of us who are doing both. But yeah, we start out early at the Beavery, and then we finish off in the evening with the telescope clinic.
Yeah. So to get to Camp Bernard, you go into Souk. So the original light in Souk after the traffic circle, and it's Otter Point Road, and then about 4.5, 5 kilometers out is a Young Lake Road. There will probably be a sign at it, but if you just drive down Young Lake Road, you end up in the camp.
Yeah, it's one of these things that you think you've gone far enough, but the advice is just go a little bit further and you'll be there. That's what I found, anyways. Okay, I'm just gonna leave with just one observing event at the very end of the month. We're approaching the western elongation of Venus, and for those of you who don't know what an elongation is, it basically tells you the maximum angle between the sun and an object. So in this case, it's Venus. Now, I was kind of hoping it would be a Eastern elongation, but it is unfortunately a Western elongation, which means it's early morning. So I don't know how many of you are game for early morning on May 31st. It's a Saturday morning, actually, but it hasn't been unheard of. I think Randy and Alex and I have met for early morning conjunctions before, so it's not unheard of. I don't know, maybe if the weather's really clear, maybe we'll do that too.
May 31st. So is that the same day as the Beaverine Telescope Clinic then?
Yeah. I think so.
Oh yeah,
So now it's three things on the same day.
This would even be longer. I wouldn't be sleeping.
You get to wake up at 3
Oh,
and you get to work
wow.
until 11. Yeah.
Fisherman hours.
Fisherman hours.
Okay, so the people who are not going to the Beavery, you have to shore up this end of the center's commitments. You have to do this, whoever that is.
Wow.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to continue with Lauri's announcement. She sent me an email. So the first one was the Star Party, the telescope clinic. And this is for all the summer, which means there are star parties every second Saturday until the end of June. So it's the 31st and then mid-June and then late June. And then throughout July and August, it will be every week. And we have a table up there. And it is really, it's first of all fun, and it's also excellent service to the club for people to join up. So that is Melissa Tupper is the organizer of our information table up there. And it is not difficult. You don't have to be a professional astronomer to talk about the sorts of questions that you get there. It is mostly going to be about what the RASC does, and that everybody in this room knows the wonderful things that we do. So please think of volunteering a couple of times this summer. If everybody does some, then it's not onerous. But then there's also out on the deck, they always welcome people with their telescopes. And you don't even have to bring a telescope because there's lots up there. And so it's a good thing to do. It's more fun as we get later on in the summer because it gets dark earlier. But we have people there and they're always sold out. This is excellent outreach for us. So please focus on Saturday nights up at the center of the universe. Okay, now I'm not going to give, oh no, this one I'm going to give now. The RASC annual general meeting. So this is not like the General Assembly where we have talks. This is where business gets done. And what Lauri writes is register for the annual meeting of the RASC Sunday, June 22nd, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Everyone should have received an invitation. Only members can attend, and you need to be logged into the RASC website with your member number to register. Updates, elections of board members, and financial statements. I know, pretty dry, but very important for the health of the RASC. And it really is. You know, RASC went through quite a tumultuous time, and it looks like we've seen through that, and we have wonderful Jenna as our employee who was in Nick's film. And you know, if we're going to keep this thing that we appreciate so much going, then we need to help it along. And one of the things is to be part of the AGM. So that is June 22nd, but you have to register ahead, and all members will have received an email. The next thing to talk about is the Star Party. And I had a nice back and forth with Linda of St. Stephen's Anglican Church on on Mount Newton Road, and everything is set. We will have the grounds from Friday, August 22nd till Sunday, August 24th. It's a new moon for people who like that, and it is going to be a great time. We still have lots of stuff to do, and Dan says, you better hold a meeting soon. So I better hold a meeting soon because I always listen to Dan. So that is August 22nd. Of course, we need volunteers, but also mostly let's have fun together, spending a couple of nights together under a nice dark-ish sky right here in Victoria. And then the week after that is the Saanich Fair, which is our largest outreach event of the year. Thousands and thousands of people come and especially look through the solar telescopes and take brochures and things, and it's very good for building up our membership. So we need about 20 people. That's about over the 3 days. And if you sign up for a 3-hour volunteer cycle, then you get free admission to the whole fair, which is a pretty good deal. And contact Lauri Roche for that. And those are all the announcements I have. Are there any other announcements? I love it. Good.
Oh,
Nick Ken.
Henrietta Levitt.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Reg.
On July 4th
Way to
is
go, Ken.
Henrietta Levitt's birthday, and a number of rascals assemble at the Cattle Point, midway between the first and second boat ramp, and point our telescopes at Lopez Island around 10 o'clock at night. And we milk the cow through the fence and enjoy the beautiful international fireworks festival. At Lopez Island, they have one of the largest fireworks festivals in the Washington state. And it goes on for about a half an hour, and it's just kind of a goofy thing to do and have a lot of fun. And we've been doing it now for about 10 years, I guess. So.
And if we don't do it, those photons are just going to fall on the ground unappreciated. It's a shame. So you have to join us at Cattle Point. What day of the week of that is that?
Also, Friday Harbor has a fireworks display too, don't they?
Friday night. It's a Friday night.
Friday night this year.
Let's have a party on a Friday night.
Friday Harbor's fireworks festival is over the ridge and not quite as close, and is not quite as extensive, but it's really good to focus your telescopes on, so you're ready for the main events. There you go.
And they used to be synchronized, but it seemed like last year they didn't kind of go in sequence, did they?
Well, I thought that Friday Harbor was very poorly behaved last year.
So there's a further away one, more to the south, where 2 years ago, it was the most remarkable thing because there was an inversion in the atmosphere, and you could see the bursts going up and down.
Yeah.
It was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. I remember that.
And so that being further away with a telescope is actually a good thing.
But it's all along the shoreline of Whidbey Island. They have all sorts of people firing them off there. So plenty of stuff to see, and good thing for fellowship of RASC. So I hope you'll join us there. There might even be Viva Puffs.
What?
Okay.
I'm in.
Randy, I just remember there are a couple of other things I wanted to
Yay!
talk about.
Announcements.
All right, so more announcements. So I just wanted to mention the VCO is ready to roll. It's we're certainly open for visual use. Imaging is actually well on its way as well. So anybody who wants to try imaging, what do you think, Reg? I guess we'll have to see how the weather goes.
Tuesday night looks ideal.
Oh, okay.
Like
Okay.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, about a 1% moon sinking just on the horizon, fairly close to Jupiter, near sunset. And but the trouble is that the onset of darkness is really late. So if we are going to arrange an opening at the DCO, we're going to have a fairly late gate time of about 9:30 or something like that.
Right. Right.
And we'll send a message out if it is a go.
Yeah,
Right.
so in order to participate in VCO kind of things, there's you have to kind of enroll in the active observers group, and there's a bunch of paperwork that's associated with that. Nothing onerous, but it's just so that we have a way of communicating with you, and also that you understand the safety requirements of the hill. So something else which is also an option, many of us go down to Cattle Point, not just for fireworks, but also for astronomical observations. I know Ken sort of avails himself of that for doing imaging as well. But you can kind of expect all summer. We'll probably have these pop-up observing sessions down at Kettle Point. And I believe, Chris Pearce, you're putting together a distribution list for Kettle Point as well.
Well, if you give me the all the details, yes, we can do that.
Yeah, so that's coming as well. So I'll certainly let you know about that. In the meantime, if you belong to the beginners group, I would certainly send out on that as well.
And
So
I guess,
go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, and people should let you know if they want to join the Cattle Point one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Chris wants me to sort of organize that. So if you are interested in meeting at Cattle Point at particular times, just let me know and I'll make sure you get on the list. And I think that's it.
I just realized that I better plug in before I start presenting or I'm going to lose it. There we go. Good. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, so anything else before I present? Because I'm going to close it off. Okay, here we go. So we're going to talk about the supernova that happened just over 2 years ago. So let's start this. So I actually gave a talk on May 29th, 2023, and I've stolen some of the slides from that, but this got motivated by Joe writing today in response to the invitation to the last Astro Cafe of the 2024 season, saying that it would be nice to talk about this supernova 2 years on. Lots of nice photos, and Gianluca Massi wrote about it. So I thought, what a great idea. I love it when people give me things to talk about, because there's too many things to talk about. So you're all welcome to say, Randy, how about? And I will very often follow up. Okay, so let's go back 2 years, and this was one of those wonderful evenings when the National Research Council gives us access to a research grade telescope, and like we're one of the most fortunate amateur astronomy clubs in the world, because we have this professional, wonderful, at one time the largest telescope in the world that they give us time on. And it's a good deal because they take really boring pictures like spectrographs, whereas we do these beautiful pictures so they can use it for their outreach. So they get something out of it, but we certainly get something out of it. And Dan is excellent at, like he says here, that they will start looking at some interesting things, do a bit of a tour, and then they'll get into the photography. So it was along with Dan, we had Ron, Joe, and me up there, and a few people online, and we settled in to the control room, and Joe took really good notes, and they are all on his website, which is pretty cool. So, you know, everybody was there, and what the weather was like, and all the things that we're looking at. And then it says down here, 2:30 a.m. I had left by then. Pinwheel Galaxy, Supernova 2023 IXF was just discovered, and our images show it. So this is just wild. There it is, that dot. That dot there didn't used to be there. And just, you know, hours before we took this picture, a Japanese fellow, he said, "Oh, look at that! There's a new star out there," and that's pretty amazing. And so we actually took the first research grade photograph of the supernova, and I think on Joe's urging, Dan sent a note to Dave Ballum, and they got a publication out hours later. This is what Joe wrote on his Facebook page. "My astronomy buddies and I were taking advantage of our rare nights on the 72-inch Plaskett telescope on Friday night and Saturday morning, touring some celestial objects, and then we settled in to take images from our observing list. Messier 101, or the Pinwheel Galaxy. For your information, that's in Ursa Major. It's just a bit beyond the pot of the Big Dipper. Pinwheel Galaxy held a surprise for us, which we didn't know about that night. The following day, we learned that Supernova 2023 IXF had burst forth, being discovered by a Japanese astronomer a few hours previous to our observing session. Sure enough, when we looked at our image, there was an extra spot on the galaxy, an exploding star. The light from this galaxy takes 21 million years to reach us. So the energy from this event is only now arriving where we live in the universe, allowing us to see it." And here it is, and I guess this was just RGB, it was just 3 colors. Do you remember, Joe? Probably says in your blog. Anyway, but it is very blue compared to the rest of the galaxy. It's hot and it's bright. And here is the publication. So this transient name server, this is for very quick transient events in the sky that astronomers put out to get them on the record quickly, so that as the Earth turns around and different places get a night sky, they can compare notes. So it was published at 2021, but that would have been universal time. So we would be 7 hours before that. So at 1 o'clock, we took the data like only 11 hours before this, and it got published. But it is properly calibrated research grade data that they were able to give with the G, R, and I. So I would be infrared, I imagine. So there is no blue. Anyway, that image that Dan did, he probably mapped the green to the blue. I don't know. Does anybody know how he did that?
I'm not sure. Those are Sloan. I think those are Sloan photometrics.
Yeah, Sloan filtered.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, back to Joe's email today. Nice photos taken by members. So I went to Zenfolio. Does everybody know about Zenfolio? It's wonderful. You search Supernova 2023, and then you see all sorts of beautiful photos come out. So here's Ron's picture. We have such amazing people in this club. Here's Brock's picture. And then Dave he noticed that he had just taken the Pinwheel Galaxy a few days before. So this is the picture with the supernova, and there it's 3 days prior. Do you see it? See it flashing there?
Yeah.
Absolutely remarkable. And I think Dave is very keen always on where the stars form. And so he put in H alpha, he put in the hydrogen clouds with the bright red. And you can see how this star is really blue. Okay, so let's keep going. So Joe said that Gianluca Massi also did this. Gianluca Massi is a wonderful guy. He calls it the virtual telescope, and he does all sorts of live casting of events from Rome in Italy, and he takes pictures and things like this. So we celebrate the second anniversary of Supernova 2023 IXF and Messier 101 since its explosion on the 19th of May 2023. Happy birthday! And then he works out that it is now magnitude 20. We were talking, I think, last week, how bright, how dim something can be and still be visible in a amateur telescope. And he was able to measure a magnitude of something that's magnitude 20. That's great. Anyway, but it was 10.8 at its peak. So that means 6,500 times brighter than it is now. So that's how much it went down. Interestingly, I was looking at the supernova of 1572, which many astronomers had noticed, but it's called Tycho star because he wrote a good book about it. And it was visible, naked eye visible, from 1572 to 1574. So that one hung around for a long time. Anyway, that is the story. Any questions? I was looking at the articles that have been written, and I didn't have time to read them, but they're mostly now, there's no new data being collected on this thing. So what they are now is modeling it, and they found it in X-ray, and they're looking for gravitational waves, and there are all sorts of different things that they're looking at. But for actual observations, they were really done in the first 3 months after the supernova.
Dave, you might be interested in Ian Shelton is also coming with Dr. Tuba.
Oh yeah,
from Toronto, and in part 2 there is his story on his supernova when he was in Chile, I think, right?
Chile, yeah.
Chile, and that he more or less they were just taking Comet Halley, and so they were just trying on a very antiquated telescope, and then son of a gun, the supernova show up. Yeah. He said it was pure luck.
Well, everything's going to change before the end of the year when the Vera Rubin telescope is up, and there will be a full picture of the southern hemisphere sky every 3 days. And we're going to find all sorts of supernovas. Anyway, there will be Astro Cafe talks about Vera Rubin, a lot of them. But we are now going to close off with thank you to the Victoria Centre members who made the 2024-2025 season of the Astro Cafe a success. So special kudos to Joe Carr for not just recording and putting these on YouTube every week, but are you aware of how much work he does with putting a table of contents and putting in the plots and making sure all the comments are there and then getting the information onto the website? So very, very special thanks to Joe Carr. To our coffee mavens, to Kathy and Elaine. Kathy, who drives a long way every week
That cup of coffee.
to come here. And she said, why don't we have coffee? It's an Astro Cafe. And I said, because nobody's making them. She says, well, I'll make it. And we thank you very much, and Elaine for pulling this all together. Yeah. And there are cookies here, and sometimes even cupcakes. Then we need 2 people every week. The person called a tech has to be here in person, and this year we're very happy to have Kevin, me, Ken, Chris, and Alex do this job. And the big kudos go to Alex, who is usually the person doing this, but he's doing something silly like traveling around Europe right now. I think he's in Spain. And then hosting. Hosting you can do from home. You don't have to come in and have our stinky cookies. But it is really a wonderful thing to do, and I thank Reg, me, Brock, David, Kirsten, Jeff, Lauri, and Margie for being volunteers this year as hosts.
For sure.
And I sure hope that you will all continue to do this. Next year starts on September 8th. It's going to be good and early. And many thanks to the people who operate the Fairfield Community Center and give this place to us for a song.
That's for sure.
And with that, we close off our year. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Disappearing before our eyes.
Sad, isn't it?
Oh,
Thanks. Great meeting, guys. Thanks.
Did you get the ticket?